excited to be at the Summit Show? Great. We're going to do a little segment up front. It's called Get to Know Your Fact Checker. I'm your fact checker, Justin David, also a comedian. Our fact checker used to be a little bit of a drunk. You guys? Round of applause. You ever drank alcohol, heard of alcohol? You guys familiar? Yeah, I used to drink a lot. Daddy used to black out. True story. I was in a long blackout one time. I came out of it and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to stop drinking and I'm 25. My friend was like, I got bad news for you. I was like, what's that? And he goes, you're 28. That was a long blackout, gang. The whole time I used to wear a suit when I drank. That was the move. Mostly because people just ask a lot less questions if you're just drunk in a suit. People are like, oh, that guy's probably supposed to be drunk. I go to a bar, loosen my tie, and be like, my God, long day of putting this suit on to get drunk in. A bit of a red flag at one point. Got what they like to call in the state of California DUI. Don't know if you guys ever heard of those, but hot tip for you. If you're going to get one, do what I did. Get one on Halloween. Because you definitely want to go to jail in a costume. I pulled over and the cop was like, sir, will you step out of the car? I was like, do I have to? He was like, yeah, I'm a cop. So I got out and he goes, oh, it's because you're wearing a dress. Guys, when I say I was wearing a dress, I don't mean like I was wearing a short skirt and a tube top. No, I was wearing a ball gown. I was dressed as a lady. I got cuffed, thrown in the back of the car. Including your amazing host. He's going to bring everybody else up. Please get up for Louis Sabatasso, everybody.
Welcome to the summit, and my partner in crime, Daryl Hammond. Get up here. We're just trying out this new format tonight, so Dustin was not aware that he was supposed to bring both of us up.
Calm down.
Thanks for the plug, Dustin.
Yeah, that was his snafu.
You just told me to do jokes.
What'd you guys think of our fact checker, Dustin? He
was
has a
great.
great voice for a fact checker, I think. You know, I am really, really pleased to be up here with Daryl Hammond. Daryl,
Not so much.
Wait, I'm gonna fuck up here. Could I just have a little bottle of water, somebody? I'm sorry, it's a little warm up here. Sorry.
Daryl and I are both real, I guess you could say political junkies. So a lot of our relationship was built on talking politics, and you know, we both have very similar sort of views in that regard. And of course, Daryl is kind of an icon of, I think you were referred to as an icon of political comedy and variety recently. So this is an icon on stage, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you saw him last week on SNL when he did Clinton.
Not very impressive, is it, folks?
Brought the house down with Clinton again on the SNL.
Well, hell.
Which is amazing. And so, yeah, so I said, let's do a,
I want to clarify, I'm not a political junkie. I've studied people my life. I'm sort of a
I'm a political junkie.
I'm a nerd who has studied people a lot and ended up getting a job doing that. He's a junkie.
And a political junkie. Both junkie.
I'm an ex-junkie, but Percocet.
Heroin, cocaine. Thanks for letting me share.
Propofol only one time, and that was my best.
Propofol was that's a wonderful. So, anyway, so we decided to do a show where we could, you know, kind of do what we do anyway, which is kind of sit around and shoot the shit about this incredibly colorful and I mean, say what you will, our political climate right now it's kind of must-see TV. I can see a lot of people out there do not agree with me on that.
It's like watching a tidal wave, and some people are going, "Oh, no biggie." You know, like there seems to be a clash coming, but I mean, what do I know? I used to do opiates, like a lot. I mean, we have couple of amazing guests today who can tell us more.
I mean, yeah, we have our political strategist who we'll bring up here in a second, and he actually knows a lot about the politics, and he's not riddled with any sort of deep drug addiction in his past. I'm almost 100% sure of that, Daryl.
He looks like a normie to me.
He looks like a normie. He sounds like a normie.
You know, like, I bet he's not even on antidepressants. No medication.
Well, I would hope he is.
I got into this with Louis because I hadn't watched the news in a few years, and I had been in Trump's office a couple of times, and I thought I knew the guy a little bit, and he was very entertaining and fun to be around. And then, like, after 3 years, I check back in, and I see this new guy. Amazing.
A friend of mine had a theory on that. He said, you know, because he too had some...
Fact check. Louis not a friend.
Okay. There's a gentleman that I know who claims to be my friend, and I will discuss that with him after the show, because I was under the impression he was a friend. He said to me, it's almost like, because if you look at Trump, and Daryl's had some personal experience, I had some personal experience with him years and years and years ago, and he just seems like a different dude. His theory was he's so obsessed with wrestling. It's almost like he created this character. Right? He went away, created this character, and came back, and this character is what he's kind of perpetrated on
It's
the
almost
country.
like he knew the resentment that was out there and the kinds of resentments that were out there, and he almost created a throng who recreated him. You know? I mean, I've only performed in front of 10,000 people one time, and believe me, you're different really fast.
Yeah. It's a lot of people.
But
I mean, this is almost as intimidating, all 15 of you. This is my biggest crowd, but I can understand that 10,000
There I was on
would be.
SNL last week, and they said, "You want to do another spot?" I'm like, "Nope.
Oh,
I want to go to the Improv Lab."
This
14,
is-
15 people, and
this is the dream, folks. This is the dream. 10,000 people in an arena, SNL, or here at the lab with Louis Sabatasso.
so we're doing good so far. And I want to do I want to say something, and then you respond.
Please. Sounds
After
fun.
I spent, I don't know, maybe an hour with Trump in his office, I said to Steve Higgins, producer at SNL, and Jimmy Fallon and all that, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's a genius, but I'm not sure at what. And I kind of hold by that, but someone help me. At what?
It's like I was talking to one of our guests before the show, and it was like, if you really look at Trump, and by the way, the shows go where they go. Obviously, this is going in the direction of Donald J. Trump. But if you look at Trump from like the 70s, there's two areas that he is a master at. Two areas. Litigation, because he's always suing somebody or getting sued, and media. He has been manipulating the media to create his own persona since the 70s. And if everybody continues to want to fight him in his arena, you're going to get beat.
Or just, to me, the big folly was they always said they thought of him as like a dope.
Yeah.
His game is like, yeah, keep laughing at my hair, while I quietly put 145 federal judges in place. And
Dustin,
3
how many
look at my hair.
judges is it up to?
A lot. Hang on. let
I
me
think
check.
it's maybe like they did 10 more since 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I read something else this week that there's another, and I really believe that's why. I mean, I think, and I've talked to people who are on the Christian right, and I'm like, you understand this guy doesn't give a shit about being a Christian, right? You don't we don't care. He's pretending to be one. He's putting judges in there that are. That's all we care about. That's what the left doesn't seem to understand. That's why we support him, because of what he's doing. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's, that they maybe don't believe what he says, and which goes to the next thing about, when they could say a truth and then a lie and then a truth.
Well, Aaron, we'll talk about that. But my feeling, when I started watching him, I was like, how did he learn how to do this? How did he learn how to change the narrative twice a day? Like
Twitter.
I used to tell people he was like the Velociraptor in Jurassic Park, because which is just studying you the whole time. Because like when you sit with him, you'll be talking about something, you'll look up and he'll be doing this. He's reading you.
Clever girl.
Oh, and this is the other part. No, he's reading you.
Yeah.
And the other part is he doesn't laugh. Have you ever seen him laugh?
No.
He does this. He does this.
I know do a
So
smile.
I'm there and I'm like trying to be funny. I'm in
Yeah.
Trump's office and shit, and I'm cracking jokes, and he's going almost like a reverse meow. It's to my original point. There's no one more interesting. I mean, who is this guy?
He's a very interesting gentleman.
See.
And we listen and one good thing about him, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again.
Do it now.
He has people engaged in politics now that would have never had any interest in politics before. Like, he has everybody talking about politics, and I truly believe that it's the voter turnout in 2020 is going to be finally a respectable, awesome voter turnout, which is all I care about. I just want to know that our democracy is sound, that foreign governments aren't fucking with it, and that people are voting.
Do you know that now?
No, I do. I hope. That's where I have hope. I have hope for our democracy, and that can happen. That can still happen.
You know who's great about voter turnout? Our political strategist.
Ooh. Yes, we are going to bring up our. This is a gentleman
Are
who.
you giving us the hook, brother?
Hey. He has
Sounded like a good segue.
He has a website called Common Ally. He's our
Want me to do
political
his-
strategist. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got his real intro. You
Okay, why don't you do his intro, Dustin, since you're running the show
And
from
play
back there.
music.
You're welcome.
Play music when we bring him up.
Can we bring the music up?
Oh, I
Aaron
love it.
Lyles is our resident political strategist and founder of Common Ally, a nonpartisan political app. Please, round of applause.
That was eventful. I like that.
Our very
Your very own normie, apparently.
very normal. So you've
Yes.
never shot heroin.
I've never shot heroin. No, I was
Not
talking
yet.
to Bridget earlier, our guest who we're going to bring up soon. But I grew up on antidepressants, I guess. And
Okay, good for you. Well, you
Ritalin, Concerta,
then
Adderall.
you're
I
welcome
was
at
of
this
that
table.
generation, so I feel like I'm one of you. Can I be in or what?
100%.
Last time I think I was trying to be a Persian with you. I think
Yes.
we're always trying to fit into something.
Listen,
here,
if
but-
you're shattered in any way broken,
oh, I'm damaged.
you're
Don't
welcome
worry.
at this
no,
table.
no.
Yeah, you'll fit right in. You'll thrive.
you
Yeah.
will thrive at this table. This is the
Have you-
table of broken souls.
Have you been to jail ever?
I got close, but no, I usually get away
No
with
jail?
things. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just running down the checklist.
Okay.
How
Go
many times
for
have you
it.
been
Let's
to
see.
I've been to jail several times.
Once. I've been once.
Once?
Yeah.
What were
Psych
you
ward.
in
You ever been
for?
to psych ward?
No.
Psych ward several
You
times.
haven't been to jail. You haven't been to a psych ward.
I've never felt so horrible in my life.
Hospital?
All right, easy one. Drug rehab.
Well, no, because I didn't go down the drug path, remember?
More than several times.
Yeah.
Ah.
There's
So-
enough
Did
crazy
you ever,
in
did you ever
here.
spend a couple of days with a legless man?
Actually, yes.
What he's
I got
bringing
that
up,
one.
I actually there was a real quick. There was a time when I was living with my sister. She had a house up in the hills, and I left to go smoke some crack, and which I was doing at the time. I love speaking to a room of normies about stuff that I talk about in meetings. Like it's just there's this stuff called crack cocaine. And you have to buy it on the street. So I went down to the street to buy some crack, and I got this, and I needed a pipe to smoke it out of. And this guy that I bought the crack from, I said, I need a pipe. He said, yeah, come out to the middle of this field. My boy Shorty's got a pipe for you. I
Hey,
was like,
could you do that voice
Yeah, that's a
again?
great accent.
my boy Shorty got a pipe for you. I said, cool. And it was the middle of the day, and there's this field, right, with nothing in the middle of it. He's like, yeah, we got to go to the middle of the field. My boy Shorty out here. I was like, all right, I'm about to get killed because there's nobody in the middle of this field. Nothing. So I walk into the field like a schmuck because this guy's got the pipe. And if you do smoke crack, which doesn't sound like a lot of people in this room have,
They're
You will
going
n-
to after this
you
show.
will know that getting that pipe is vital. So I'm walking to the middle of the field, and I'm like, where is this? Shorty, come on. And he walks to the middle of the field, and he lifts up this tarp. And there was a hole in this field, and there was a legless homeless man in the hole. That was Shorty. And I stayed with Shorty in that hole 3 days. and smoked crack. 3 days.
Did
Wow.
he talk to you in that voice?
Well, no.
Like, what kinds of things did he talk about?
Shorty was amazing. Shorty had a little different. Shorty Shorty was like, yeah, everybody smokes crack and everybody tries to keep it, everybody tries to be real serious
Were you
about
in New Orleans or what's happening here?
No, this was L.A., but there's this thing called the
Shorty was
Amtrak.
from New Orleans.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he goes, did you see the weather today? And he took a hit. Said it's going to be cloudy. And he goes, I just like to keep it light. And
I brought this up.
Yeah.
you did. I thought you had the Shorty story. I hope you both don't have the same
No,
story.
I have a great crack story, but it doesn't have Shorty in it.
This is where we let our freak flag fly.
I see that.
Because
Yeah.
there's really legitimate people coming out.
There is.
And
Yeah.
you're legitimate.
Apparently, that's what you guys
Let's
tell
talk
me.
about
I like
the
this.
stories you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about at the
yeah,
political
I think
stuff.
we're losing table 3.
Oh, it's shit.
Like, I
10
think
people
we're-
already left.
Yeah, it's
Like
for a
this
check.
table right here, I really want to get to, and I think our cracks, they're not relating to the
too late, they're gone.
to Shorty, right, guys?
I
Two
saw a
crackheads on
couple
top.
smiles.
Yeah.
We're like,
All right.
well, go ahead.
No, I think and I think you already brought this up, but one of the main things that we talked about earlier and that we wanted to bring up here was the inability to kind of pin somebody down, and it's not just Trump; it's the entire administration, I think, and a lot of people around that orbit. And Nick Mulvaney being the most recent example of this is they say something, and then they negate it in the same interview and then go back to it. So you're kind of left with, what do I do, and which part do I prosecute? Which part do I understand as truth and which is not?
Give us an example.
Well, so, and I think Dustin might have the quote, but Mulvaney said something about the Ukrainian call and how the quid pro quo, unequivocally, yes, we did that, happens all the time, get over it, and then said, no way, we don't do that. So you're kind of like, well, what the fuck's happening?
Same press conference.
Well, in that press conference, no, he walked it back. But usually, like Giuliani was on Cuomo and did it there, where
Anybody see the Giuliani Cuomo
reversed in
thing?
the same interview, and Cuomo was just like, I don't know what just happened on my own show. So I think that happens a lot, but I think it's a tactic, and I don't know whether that comes from Bannon as the mastermind, or if that's somebody else, or whether it's Trump. Or, like, I don't know, but I think it is a very effective tactic in muddying the waters and confusing things, so you don't really know what to latch onto.
Yeah, they're doing like a Groucho thing.
Yeah.
I just ordered this book called Why a Duck, and it has all these Groucho scripts in it. The double speak and the switcheroo. It's just like, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Literally.
Explain. Tell me what you found.
I'm talking about saying nothing,
Yeah.
but saying it with intensity. You know, once Trump establishes that it's us against them and we were fucked, once he really gets that out there and insinuates who fucked us, then he can say any fucking thing he wants.
Yeah.
Like, you see him in front of the planes and shit, or the helicopter, screaming at people. He's screaming at us. And it's just a genius tactic because it's righteous indignation at its best.
Yeah.
And then he just goes off and says any fucking thing he wants. You know? I
Yeah.
mean,
Give me an
An
example.
example.
Here. Yeah, I need to
I'd like to give you an
I'm-
example, but it's really hard because I don't have a mic stand.
I
And
could
it's
be
like,
a mic
I
stand.
don't know how I can do it.
I can hold it for you. I can hold the mic.
Because you do need the hands on this one.
We do need the hang. Let's just do this. Put this down, and then I have the cordless. Here we go. This is apparently we're going to see Trump yelling at us in front of the helicopter.
So I wrote I wrote a synopsis of his whole week, of everything he said this week. It's like 75 words
75 total words.
that
He
encompasses
has a very
the 12,000 that he used.
limited vocabulary, but
I
effective.
hear the
So you can do that,
helicopter.
but you got to make it louder.
Oh, we have.
Oh, are you doing that? Do it really loud.
Volume.
There you go.
Louder. Louder.
It goes as loud as it goes.
All right, we'll work on
All
that.
right, ask me about Michael Bloomberg.
How do you feel about Michael Bloomberg getting in the race?
The only thing I know about little Michael is I stepped on him once at a party. He reminded me of the whistleblower. Here 1 minute, gone the next, okay? It's a hoax. The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. No collusion with Russia. Fat people, very fat people. Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
And how was the phone call, though? Explain. If you have one word to describe the phone call, what would it be?
It was perfect.
Oh, there it is.
Now
Now it
he
makes
does.
sense.
All right, you can turn that down now, Dustin.
Timing's everything, Dustin.
That
wasn't me.
Thank you, Dustin, for that. Let's bring up. Should we?
Wait a minute, did
All right.
that bit suck?
No, it's
No,
great.
no. It felt very real.
I mean, it was
Felt
so
good.
hard
Table
to,
3 came back. So
Table
we're
3
good.
came
it was
back.
hard to
That's
do
how
it
good it
without
was.
the copter.
Well, Dustin has the one job back there. Obviously, he's struggling.
If we ever do that again, can we bring up like a mic stand and shit?
Yeah,
can just go
no. I like holding the mic for you. I think that kind of is effective.
That was a nice moment.
It was
Wait,
a nice moment,
Wait,
I thought.
We're taking his time.
Oh,
But I'm
don't
making
worry.
your point for you.
You are.
There's a lot of double speak.
Yes. There's a lot of double speak.
Do you understand what the fuck he just said? What did Trump
well,
just say?
we talked about, too, the repetition and projection. If you say it often enough, especially if you're watching one outlet or, we have busy lives. We don't tune in every second, not all of us. So you hear the same thing. Eventually that kind of like drips in as truth. And then you hear the projection. So if he's taking fire, he takes that same fire and spits it right back. So and those are effective tools. So if you have the double speak and you have
Where
the
have we seen
projections,
that though?
outside of
Where have we
Trumplandia,
seen
or-
in politics? I know you are, but what am I?
Which
it's
he
kinda-
actually said during the debates.
Yeah,
I didn't start it.
you are.
Yeah.
It's not our fault. Okay. It's not our fault. Okay. Right.
Sounds real familiar. Yeah.
Well, keep going. I keep interrupting.
What else do you have?
No,
Story? What
no,
else?
no.
What other story would you like to bring up?
Well, I actually I had too many, which is why I really actually want to bring up the guest.
Let's do it.
and get into it with her because I think she's amazing and she's the voice that we need.
Because
at
we're
this table.
knuckleheads.
Yeah.
No,
Why don't you?
I am.
You want to?
You guys are amazing.
Who want? Dustin? Do you want to bring up Bridget or Aaron? Do you want to bring? Who wants to do that? How are we going to do this?
I'd love to.
Where
Dustin,
are
why don't
we?
you do it?
You got the intro for
No.
me?
Up.
That was your job, Louis.
No.
Oh,
All right.
Oh.
Let's. So we have Bridget, who's going to be joining us now.
Bridget
How did
Fetisi.
I end up? Yes.
Who has Dumpster Dive, Dumpster Fire
Yay!
on YouTube. She's been on Joe Rogan, and she's awesome. And I am so happy to have her
Yes.
here.
Hello.
Hi,
I'm
Bridget.
also a junkie.
She another junkie.
All right.
I didn't realize this was going to be a live AA meeting.
Yes. With normies in the room, which is
With normies in
yeah.
the room. This is what you're missing, folks, when you're not a junkie.
I mean, so go.
Yeah, no. So I want to dive right in.
Okay.
And I
Dive
think
right in.
we've talked about whether you are a liberal or conservative, what that is, and how that's changed over the years.
Yeah.
I think drugs have played a role in what that might have become. But I just want to ask the question of how does a liberal, assuming that used to be a title,
Yes.
how does a liberal get on Glenn Beck, and what is that like?
Okay.
You
I
were on
think
Glenn
that
Beck.
will
I
inform.
was. I went, I did his podcast. Daryl's
Wow.
no longer
How did
speaking to
you-
me.
No, what? No, why?
That's
Why?
fascinating.
Wait, why? Why would I?
No, you look like you were like, that's it.
No, we're very
That's it, I'm
center.
done.
We're center here. We don't.
So he wasn't the first person that was conservative that had me on. And it was mostly that I got sober in 2013, started writing for Playboy in 2015, kind of came to and was in the middle of the culture war, but didn't really realize there was a culture war going on. I grew up very liberal. I was always surrounded by liberals and lived in liberal enclaves. And then I would say things on Playboy and didn't know how far the culture had kind of shifted left while I was in a blackout for 20 years.
Like what? What did you say?
Like I would say things like real man. You know, I wrote a piece, women date assholes because you're a pussy, and it's true.
Which I
Wait, I like that.
I like that.
That's really
It's the
good.
number one question that I get asked as a woman who writes. You know, men were always writing me, and they said, "Why do women date assholes?" And so I wrote this piece, and in it I said, you know, they want like a real man. You and I were having this conversation about the daddy figure too. We can
Yeah.
talk more about
And
that.
I wasn't the real man in this scenario, if you haven't guessed already. But yeah.
and then I was attacked by many of the kind of far right incel types, the men's rights activists, and also the far left radical feminists.
So you got it from both sides.
Yeah, and that was the first
But
time
on
that
what grounds?
on the grounds that I was the toxic masculinity, that the idea of a real real man, what is a real man? And there's no definition, and this idea that there's a real man is toxic masculinity. And then I wrote a piece. There was a piece that went viral, and it was about why I don't like giving. It was like why I hate giving head or something. Why I hate blowjobs.
Sure,
Mm.
of course.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so
I
I
do too.
decided
Yeah.
that I
Not my
needed. Yeah.
Wait, can we hear a little bit more
get-
about that?
I decided I needed to be the voice for blowjobs because someone needs to be, much to the chagrin of my father. And I wrote a piece in defense of blowjobs, like why I love giving head.
I
This
think
is
we
a
can
lot
all.
of information.
I think
for
we can all get
Hello,
behind.
audience.
This audience is pro blowjobs.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
feel like
Yeah.
they are.
We can
I
all
get
feel
behind
like
that.
maybe.
Nice.
And then that was when I found out that I had internalized the patriarchy, literally. So
wait, meaning
like this idea that
Literally internalized the patriarchy.
Well, that's my joke, is that I
The
literally
penis.
did. But
Literally, the penis with the
Oh,
I
penis.
swallow.
Patri-
That's what I'm
patriarch-
saying.
yeah.
Okay.
She's
You
saying,
what?
she's saying she's
Say it.
Wait,
No.
patriarchy is a pseudonym for penis?
no. She's saying once the guy completed the task. at
No.
hand,
Well, yeah, that's the
she
joke.
Lost interest.
Yeah, which really, but unpacking this joke is really becoming very.
We're getting
interesting.
way off course here.
We're diverting. But so I hadn't heard of these things like internalized patriarchy. I didn't go to college because I went to rehab instead. And
God, I wish you got the same credits for that.
I know. I became the president of my rehab. I was like, "Can I put this on my on my resume?"
Doesn't translate.
It doesn't. So that was when I realized that I may have missed the memo, that I was not as progressive as I thought I was. And I feel like this is a common experience for people who are probably center left.
Now talk about. Is this why you started dumpster fire?
No. So then I started. Then I wrote a piece on Inauguration Day. Trump is already making America great again, and it was for Playboy. But it was really just saying the silver lining. A lot of what you guys were talking about, like people are activated. We've had a very complacent, population for a while, and so people are getting excited about politics, and I made a whole list, but I don't think that everybody was ready for that message on Inauguration Day.
I'll bet some people were.
Some maybe, but I don't think that the audience I was speaking to was primarily people on the left.
They didn't get your point.
Well, and the headline was a little bit, it was a sensitive day.
Yeah.
You're trying to say the guy's got us talking again.
Yeah, and then so that was interesting because I lost a lot of friends and followers, and so that was an interesting reaction. And then I was talking about the hypocrisy of feminism online. I kind of tweeted my way into the center of all this, and then I said I would write a piece about this, but literally no one would publish it. And then a publisher said, "I'll publish it." I know nothing about conservative media, mind you. I don't come from that. I never read any. I didn't know anything. So I just was a freelance writer trying to pay my bills. I'm like, sure, I'll write about high heel hypocrisy. They were all going after Melania for her shoes and her clothes. And I was like, you guys, you can't say that, like, you can't judge a woman, but then judge these women. If you're a feminist. And then it was for the Federalists, and I knew nothing about the exactly. Someone knows. Someone's like,
Federalists.
yeah, exactly. I knew nothing about the Federalists, but I now have a byline there, and I was a poor writer.
What is the Federalist?
It's a
It's a very conservative publication. It's like Breitbart, but not.
It's not like Breitbart.
It's not
I don't
Breitbart,
think.
no,
I
it's
would
not
say
that bad.
maybe to the left of Breitbart.
Just,
on the
yeah.
spectrum, I think.
On the spectrum,
probably.
which highbrow concern. Thank you, sir. What's your
Thank
name?
you.
Mark.
Would
Thank
you
you,
like
Mark.
to
Thank you,
come
Mark.
sit in
Mark,
my seat?
Mark, I'm gonna get you in a second. I'm gonna come
Hey,
down
it
there.
looks like we have a new fact checker. Though.
Um, Dustin.
I'm Googling the Federalist. Says that it leans right.
Who funds the
Oh.
Federalists?
Who funds
Who
the federal?
funds
There you
the
go, Dustin. Who
Federalists?
funds
that's a
the
good question.
Federalist?
Yeah.
So then that began the journey of my ideological liberation.
Were you?
I guess I just became then it was just it's been kind of wild ever since. So Ben Shapiro had me on his election special as an independent, and we were talking about Kavanaugh, and I was saying, you know, there is a conversation not being had around Me Too that women have privately that we don't have publicly. A lot of conversations are being had that, you know, everything gets flattened. It's this two-party system. Everybody becomes two-dimensional political abstractions, and then we just start viewing each other as enemies, and there's no nuance gets erased.
It's very myopic.
Yeah, we talked about that too with the whole like the George Lakoff thing about there being the strict father figure and then there being the maternal nurturer, and that we fall into this empathy bubble around, like, you know, healthcare and social services and all that, and then with the strict father figure, we have what's happening on the border, which is teach them a lesson so they don't come back. and we are falling into these too. But I feel like you've tapped into this middle ground, this more independent base of, look, we kind of have a little bit of both, and like we're being shut off from both, which is I think why you guys really wanted to start the show in the first place. And I think what the country is thirsty for is, how do I get to be a three-dimensional human being in this fucking crazy land of polarization? And I feel like you've tapped that.
I think that just by saying what and really the only reason that I tapped that is because I started saying things. I do comedy, I'm a writer. I noticed I was self-censoring on Twitter about jokes I would have made about the left, for example. And so as I was like, why am I doing this? When I started doing it, I realized why. Because you get piled on and mobbed, and everybody tells you that you're carrying water for Nazis. And so or that you're a conservative. It's true. Or that you're a conservative. Even if you make a reasonable point, it's now, that's your parroting conservative talking points. So you get lumped in. So what's interesting to me and that has happened is that after the 2016 election, everybody said, we're in a bubble. Everybody in the media and Hollywood, and they were all like, we're in a bubble. How do we not see this coming? We're in this bubble. Oh my God, we can't be in this bubble. Then they shut the fucking bubble down. They were like, oh, we're going to double down, shut it off. Anyone who disagrees with us is now a conservative, essentially, or label them that. So the conversation, how did I end up on Glenn Beck? Well, Glenn will talk to me. Nobody on the left has invited me to say, hey, you girl who is a registered Democrat your entire life, how did we lose your vote potentially? Not that they have, but what are we doing that maybe we are blind to, or what are we missing?
Tell us more. I want to hear more about that. What are they doing?
I think one of the biggest things that I hear from the people that I talk to online and that we kind of joke about is this, the incessant kind of talk about gender and the policing around the they and it's like most people I know are like, I don't give a fuck what you want to identify as. I don't care. Just stop talking about it and stop forcing the like the language policing around it that happens. People are
the liberals talking about gender too much.
I think
I'm stupid. Sorry.
no. I think she's talking about the you know the they and the gender
Pronouns.
gender
the
pronouns.
and again,
Well,
I have
but you were talking about that being too high of a priority on the agenda.
Right.
Yeah,
All
that was the thing. We were
Right.
saying that was
Thing
too high of a
facing.
priority when there's other important things to face that the voters really care about. When they're, I think that the progressive far left has that at the top of their priority, like the gender stuff. Like this is the most
Right.
important thing, and people in America are like, that's not. We're sensitive to that. We don't disagree with
Right.
it, but there's certainly things more important.
And that's just because it gets the most play in media, and it seems like the as usual, and the most extreme voices have the microphones and don't really represent where most people fall. And we have a massive opioid epidemic in this country. People are literally losing. Everyone I know has lost somebody basically to this, and then they're seeing on the headlines, you know, something about bathrooms or whatever, and it's not relevant to their life, and so they're being pushed away, I think.
What are the numbers on opiate addicts in America? Like 80 million or something?
Dustin.
I mean, it might be.
Well, there's 3 on stage right now,
Fact check.
so we can
I
only
mean,
imagine.
3 out of 4 people, I'm guessing.
So if
based
I
on
can
this.
like, I mean, to put a little jab in that though is like I agree with the fact that there has to be a reshuffling of priorities. I think
Yeah.
for sure in both parties, and there are some big ticket things that we are just not looking at right now, which is scary.
Name 2.
Well, I think climate is one. I mean, I could get pinned for being a liberal
Yeah.
just for saying that, right? And I think our institution, like what it actually means to run this government and what a democracy is, I think is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot. Those two in and itself are big enough to not be able to handle the minutia under it until we figure those things out.
I have become really a one-issue guy. If I am a one-issue guy, it's that. Just after all of this, extreme left, extreme right, I just want the democracy preserved. That's it.
Yeah.
The 3 branches of government preserved. I think I was very guilty forever of being like, it's just our system. Our system's broken. Our system sucks. I like our system. Like, I'd like to just keep our system at this point and know that our votes count.
It at least allows for really super slow change. At least that.
Yeah.
It is slow, but
yeah,
it
it
does.
is.
Backtrack?
There have been changes. What?
No, you're right. I found the information regarding there's 21 million Americans that are addicts and 1.4 million adults that identify as transgender.
We were looking for
No, that,
opioid
he
numbers,
said
but-
addicts. That's in the opioids. So in
Oh,
other
gotcha.
words, there's
So there are 21 million people currently addicted.
and there's 1 point what million transgender?
1.4 million adults that identify as transgender. As of 2016, that's the latest polling.
But that was the last part of my point was just there is a sizable population who is marginalized, who doesn't
Of
have a
course,
voice,
of course.
who now has a party who's behind them, and I think that's really important.
It is
Where does it
important.
fall on the spectrum? I'm not a spokesperson there. I don't know. But I do think that we have to look through the eyes of other people,
Of course.
and to some extent.
But
So,
I
and
don't.
think
I
there's
don't
trying.
think that you. I don't think that you can still care about marginalized communities and also speak to like the center
Great.
left as well and talk about what they're concerned with. Do you
Yeah.
know what they're concerned with?
Yes,
No.
I want to hear.
No, I
No,
don't think
I mean,
no one
does,
does.
I'm asking
Nobody
you.
knows.
That's the problem. And is there any one leader? Like, has anyone emerged yet in all these candidates to say they are of that? Like, I don't,
No,
I
well,
haven't seen it.
I don't. I think Pete Buttigieg. Pete. I think he's-
Buttigieg.
I think
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg is the
Just go with
closest.
Mayor Pete.
I think Mayor Pete is probably the closest to that. He seems very, which is ironic because he's the only known homosexual on the Democratic
But he's-
side.
Ooh, that was a shot at Cory Booker, guys.
Ah,
That was
thought
not
it
a
was
direct
Biden.
shot
Shots
way.
fired.
Cory Book or Biden.
I'm translating.
I was not. I
Wait.
said no.
We're learning so much.
I
What
just,
about Cory Booker?
I was not insinuating that Cory. And if he was, there's nothing wrong with that, Cory. Let your
Whoa,
flag fly. But
I want to hear.
she was saying that I was saying because if we rewind, I said the only known homosexual on the ticket, and then she said Cory Booker. In other words, I was
I
insinuating.
said he was insinuating
I was
that.
insinuating, and then you.
I
and
was
then somebody
fact-checking
mentioned
the
Biden.
audience.
God, am I high?
No.
Maybe
Yeah,
not.
you might be.
Maybe not fact checking.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's not a fact.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fact check myself.
But you were saying about Mayor
So-
Pete.
I was saying that
He's the best candidate.
I
The
think
most
Mayor Pete,
complete candidate.
and I give you a prediction right now. I do not think it's so far fetched to think that Mayor Pete can actually win the nomination. I thought Elizabeth
on the
Warren.
ticket with him?
I thought all of that, but she shit the bed so bad with the Medicare for all and how she's going to pay for it. I mean, it was such a huge bed shitting.
What?
she's
That's
second.
an actual
to
political
Biden.
term
It's
now.
an actual political term.
Yes,
Huge bed shitting.
It was in
I
Time Magazine.
don't know that she can recover. And
She's second in
Biden,
the polls behind Biden.
Yeah.
Biden, bless his heart, it's like, I mean,
She's
well,
the
we'll
front
just
runner
leave it at
still.
that.
What?
But
What? Wait. Wait.
Isn't he the leading guy?
no,
He is
right?
the leading
Not
guy
in
right
now.
Iowa.
Polls.
Not in the first.
In the polls.
The
In the-
first
all the polls.
primary.
That means.
I mean, could you imagine the jokes though with Buttigieg and the poll? I mean, it's going to get
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
What is the joke?
I don't know.
I wish
Just
that we
say
could
something about
poll our
polls and
audience.
poll and
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Let's poll our audience on this.
what do you guys think of Pete out there? Anybody like the Mayor Pete out there? Oh boy. Well, I could be wrong.
Anyone for Trump?
They wouldn't
Well, it's
admit it.
okay.
They wouldn't admit it.
You're in a safe space.
Oh, come
We trust
on.
me. We've had
Elizabeth
shows where
Warren.
people are all
Elizabeth
about it.
Warren. Joe
Okay.
Biden.
Bernie.
I was telling Bridget before the.
Bernie.
None
Bernie's
of,
laughing
none of
back
the
here for
above is
Bernie.
not an option.
I was
What
telling.
about
Bri-
Bloomberg, guys? What about
Oh, boy.
Bloomberg?
Oh, what about Little Mike?
Little-
Is he already calling him Little
He's
Mike?
calling him Little
He's
Mike.
already, he's
Oh.
already called him
He
Little
stepped
Mike.
on him at
He
a
has
party.
the best
Day one.
nicknames.
Huh?
Little Mike, Nervous Nancy,
He has the best
Shifty
nicknames.
Shift.
That's better than Pencil Neck.
Oh, I heard Hannity the other day coin this too. He said his headline was because of this. He said this has become a real shift show.
Oh, that's catchy.
Shit show,
They have
shift
that too.
show.
They have all those catchy little
Lively
things.
originality.
I mean, that's Sean Hannity, ladies
Snappy.
and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And Sean, I want you on the show eventually because you're crazy.
That'll get him.
So you slandered
bring him
Cory
on.
Booker and
I could
Sean
probably
No,
Hannity.
I didn't slander anybody. I'm obviously in joking. I said nothing about Cory Booker. Somebody else insinuated that I was insinuating something, which I was not.
It was a joke. We're allowed to make jokes in a comedy club, right? Thank
Bring
you.
it back.
This
Bring
is
back the jokes.
Very
Thank you.
serious.
Yes.
We have a just kidding sign. That,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just joking.
Can I have a just kidding?
And the
That's
truth
a
of the matter
joke,
is,
everyone.
if these people are in public, which they are, you're, the stuff that you can actually say about them, opinion-wise, on something like this is very broad to what you're allowed to do.
Yeah. How do you feel about woke culture and what Obama said about it?
Ooh.
You get that?
I agree with Obama,
Yeah.
although he got canceled.
Yeah.
Do we know?
But-
Does everybody know what Obama said about the woke culture?
Can you get that
let's hear
quote,
the woke
Dustin?
culture. I wanna
I really envy
Looking it up.
this audience's
It's
I envy
This
people.
is the world that most people
This
don't
is the
care
world
about
most
this.
people live in.
Which is
Yeah.
great. It's wonderful.
And that's what I always say is that when you plug in, it's like this nightmare dystopia, and then you unplug and it's like a Disney movie. It's like the it's like the opposite of all of the science fiction we read. It used to be like we live in this dystopian world and we plug in to get away from it, and now it's the opposite.
I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, just because you're saying you're woke on social media does not mean you're an activist, right? Or
What does
you're-
he mean by woke? Sorry.
It doesn't mean you're not dumb.
The-
Yeah.
Thank you. He's like,
Yeah,
just being
get up and do
woke
something.
doesn't. He's like, what the? He's
What
like,
is
everybody.
woke?
Why have the quote?
Yeah. You don't stop at woke.
Okay.
It's like you
Like
woke
I-
up. Now
what
what
does
are you
that
going
mean,
to do
like-
with your
Woke.
day,
Does
right?
that mean
Woke
like I've had a light bulb
is-
moment, an aha
Yes,
moment?
woke means
Oh.
like you're woke.
I see the light.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're woke to the fact that the white man is the devil.
Only in your mind.
The Obama quote
yeah,
is
it's an ideology.
It's an
this
ideology.
idea of purity and you've never compromised and you're politically woke and all that stuff. You should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love
Just by
that, because
tweeting
that,
this
I mean,
out,
that
actually.
basically I think that sums up how most people think.
Well, it makes
Many.
it
Most
makes it
people
harder
think
to-
that way. Nobody really is like, no, we don't want rights for these people. It's just like, let them live their life.
Yeah, but you have to
You
give
know?
up the joy of judgment, though.
Yeah.
You know, of sitting
Who
and
wants to
judging.
do that?
I know, not me.
And not me either.
I like to think about the people that fuck me over and
The joy of
the
judgment.
joy. Like if you start to go, hey, nobody's perfect and everyone's trying their best, and whatever bad qualities they have are multi-generational and probably started in Hungary 2,000 years ago.
Very
You're like,
true.
well, what the fuck? Who
That's
am I
way
going to
too
blame my
reasonable.
problems? I want to.
Yeah.
I need a bad guy. I need a fall guy.
I enjoy a good scapegoat.
I need a perp.
Yeah.
We need
we need
Listen,
a perp.
We need a perp.
politics need a perp. I mean, you need the right. The purpose become what, socialism, right?
Or immigrants.
or immigrants. Which is and it's that like myopic bullshit that I hate the most. I hate the fact that it's on the right. The right will say if you vote for anybody on the left, they all want open borders.
Yeah. Oh,
They all want no borders at all, right?
they want to shut down Christianity.
They want to shut down
No
Christianity.
more Christmas.
They want no Christmas is done.
Christmas is
Fuck this.
canceled.
Right? Christmas is canceled, and we don't. What's the other thing?
Socialism.
And socialism. They want to take all of your money and put
And
it
your
into a big
guns.
pot.
They're gonna
and,
take your
and they're
guns.
gonna take
Yeah.
all your guns. That's
and
what they
sell
say.
fetuses
And the other way,
Yeah.
to market.
and the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side,
And sell fetuses to market.
and the left says about the right
Here comes Hitler.
that here
Yeah.
comes Hitler.
Yeah.
Here comes white supremacy. If you support the right, you are a racist,
Sexist.
sexist pig with a
Mm-hmm.
small brain. And it's like most
that
people
might
don't
be Louis
live.
projecting a little, but
Most people don't live in those two extremes,
So what
right?
do we
We
do?
live in the center, so that's why we have a show like this.
I've
Where
been
we
wa-
can be in the center.
I've been watching Hitler's Krupp Factory speech. Have
Oh,
you ever
this
heard-
is brilliant. Listen to this.
No, it's really, really great stuff. When he'd been this mild-mannered labor leader, he didn't own things. He was moderate in his responses to most things, and had actually done time. You know, he was of the people. And there was the night at the Krupp Factory, and there's a 30-second thing you can find online where he comes out with gestures that he'd been coached. I mean, he'd been working on these gestures all along. and he'd been this sort of mild, and all of a sudden he's like, "Habertans, Conus, Mädchen, not make my fuck!" And people are going, "The fuck?" Which is what Trump does in front of the helicopter.
It's
true.
Now, we're
Yeah.
not saying that Trump is Hitler. That's not what we're saying. Or even insinuating that.
Wait, I didn't mean that.
I know. I'm just clearing it up. We did not
It
include-
just
insinuate that about
us
Cory
against
Booker.
the-
PC police.
I just mean speaking at the top of your lungs. When that doesn't occur anywhere else in society except on Broadway. Like no other humans talk like that.
But is
No-
that to show authority?
Huh?
That's to show authority, right?
Oh, it's also it's built-in righteous indignation.
There's an episode of The Office.
It's not like Hitler didn't have a message.
Yeah.
You know. Never mind. Sorry.
There's an episode of The Office, and I think everything can be learned
My friend
from.
Bridget would approve my right to say. It's not.
I
like,
love it.
It's not like Hitler didn't know what he was fucking doing.
What's amazing is there's an episode of The Office which is can be a very informative show.
I've never seen it.
And the
Right.
episode is Dwight is going to be accepting an award for best salesman in all of Dunder Mifflin, and John Krasinski's that guy.
John Krasinski.
Franz Krasinski, who's your favorite guy now. He's
Is that
now
the
on,
Ryan dude?
He's now on
Jack Ryan.
Jack
Jack
Ryan.
Ryan. His character, who's his name? Is there Pam or Jim? Jim. His parents' name Jim. Jim goes to get back at Dwight. He's like, Jim goes,
Pam.
you have to. Well, Pam and Jim, PB and J. Pam's the girlfriend.
Pam.
It's how you guys are. I'm.
Pam?
By the way, I'm definitely on some form of spectrum. I don't know what spectrum, but there's something going on. So. He said you have to just.
Jack?
He said when you when you speak, you have to. All great speakers in history banged on the table and waved their arms and yelled. And so Dwight, because he's Dwight, went to speak at this thing and he was banging on the table and he was waving his arms. Brought the house down. It's a long way to go for the end of that
There's
story.
a long way to go to the
Yeah.
beach.
Long way around.
We
Wow.
apologize
For
the
such
payoff.
moderate surf. No, I thought it was a really good story.
Thank you, Thank you, Daryl.
No,
He's- I have a
really
one-person
did.
audience, Daryl
You
Hammond.
know, I really did. I'm on the spectrum as well.
Thank you.
But I can only think of 3 effective speakers that screamed at the top of their lungs: is Hitler, Trump, and Hugo Chavez, Mussolini,
Yes.
and are any others? Oh, Huey P. Long.
But I feel like all of them had an actual agenda. Like I think they knew what they were doing. It was calculated. It was pre-planned. It was
They were also-
self-designed. Like, do you think?
No, they didn't. They thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Do
there
you
was
think
a-
Trump is in the same calculation?
I want to say this again. I don't know what he
Yeah.
is.
Tough to read. Yeah.
I think the idea that he's this dope, that people want to think of him as this dopey fucking guy, is that's how he wins.
Yep.
You don't take him fucking seriously, and look at what's happening now.
Underestimate him at your peril. And once again, we are not comparing Trump to Mussolini and Hitler.
Certainly
Huey
does
P-
sound that
Huey
way.
We're
P.
not.
Well,
We're not doing that.
Or John Krasinski.
Or John
or
Krasinski.
Pam.
Or Pam or Jim. Or Cory Booker.
Or Kron.
Dwight.
We're not. Or Dwight. We're not saying any of those things. We're merely discussing some things that.
Can you say that in Shorty's voice?
We're just discussing some shit.
We might be comparing him to Shorty. though.
Yeah. We're comparing him to
Close.
Shorty. But you know what? It's like it's fascinating. Is
That was
what it
actually
is.
my
It
nickname
is
for a while.
really fascinating. If you really look at it, and Daryl's whole life, he's been, like he said, he's been studying people. He studies people like he did, the master of doing Clinton and a master of doing W and a master of doing Trump, and he's that's why icon of political comedy, Daryl Hammond, ladies and gentlemen.
I think no. Come on. I think it's the show that I was on. I'm basically a knucklehead who like to smoke weed and study people, and I've done it my whole life.
But the fact that he's done it is so now he gets to sit and that's how we look at this stuff. We're really looking at this stuff like the way that we've always looked at this stuff our entire lives, and really looking at him as a character and why is he so effective. It's like I want to know. We have a news anchor that's going to come on this show again. He came on the show once, and he's a very intelligent guy. He went to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
And he's an anchor currently, And he was a climate change denier. He goes, I have my doubts.
Yeah,
And I want to know how you can think that way.
I want to tell the story that Louis finds really dull, but it's the only
wanna
one I
hear
have.
it.
Nothing you do, I find
Yes,
dull,
a lot
Daryl.
of it is.
Nothing.
I know that it is. I know these people like in Pennsylvania, New York, like these couple. I'm talking about 3 families I know that are such good people. Like I would let my children. I would want my children to be like them, but they have the same thing. They have that same blind spot, like they're willing to accept. No, there really is no climate change. You know, and the whistleblower probably did work for the Obama campaign. Like they're just buying it. They're buying it. And what does that mean? And as I said to Bridget before the show, I want an anthropologist to come on and explain that fucking
Yeah.
shit. And she's like, you know what? Go fuck yourself.
And
Because
she
I-
came
I-
on anyway.
I witnessed
I-
that.
says, that was so dull, Daryl. Stop.
Yeah, what's interesting to me right now about this time in history is that everyone thinks they're on the right side of history. So the very moral righteousness with which we all sit in our certainty about our opinions, the other side or the people who might be our opponents or Trump supporters are sitting and feeling the exact same way. And I think starting to realize that is how you can have a conversation instead of demonizing the opponent, because they demonize,
Yeah.
you know, we're all just these
It's like these
heathens out here.
God-fearing, lawn-mowing, tax-paying, Little League coaching Americans looking at the same picture and seeing 2 different
Yeah.
things.
At their own peril
Well-
sometimes. That's the part that always gets me.
Mhm.
Is like you're watching your paycheck dwindle, you're watching your stores go out in your community, you're seeing all these things
Well, I
happen.
thought we had a robust economy. Can someone explain that to me?
Well, we talked about this earlier. Like, I would love to hear more about that as well.
I don't.
Like,
I mean, I
think
hear that as well. My bank
economy is
account
the
is pretty
market.
sad, but it always has been for years. So I can't really gauge by my own situation.
I
But
think they talk about it in the sense of the market, and that doesn't affect
That there are a number of jobs filled, but how many Americans, you know, did anyone hear this stat that like 70% of America can't put together $400 in cash?
Yeah. Well, there's
But that's been
underemployment.
true
There's people
for
with
a
too
long
many
time.
jobs.
Okay, but Trump is running on a strong economy.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, is that
I-
a strong economy?
I think the whole job growth thing is ride sharing, right? It's like Lyft drivers and Uber drivers, and Lyft and
that's what
Uber
it's-
Eats and all that. Like that's all those people I would see. It's like anybody can work if you have a car and a driver's license. You're employed.
That does skew the numbers.
Who owed a pizza? Who owed a pizza?
Can you
Who owed
order
a pie?
Did you order food to the hole?
Oh,
Fact check.
thank God.
In the news today, Uber lost $1.1 billion in the third quarter of 2019.
I didn't say they were profitable. I said they're
Their job
Higher
They're
creators.
their
just generating
jobs.
really good jobs.
Quick little fact.
Why did they lose it? Does it say?
Lost
inflated. They
money
They really
almost every
inflated
quarter
their
since
their
its founding
value.
a decade ago.
Mm.
Well, there was very inflated value at the
Like
at the when they went public, right? I mean, that's how they do that. What they do with Facebook and they inflate the value of this stuff. And I mean, listen, I don't know how you can inflate the value of something like Uber that has completely changed the culture. I mean, I don't drive. I don't have a driver's license. Believe it or not, state of California does not want me
believe that.
behind the wheel. of
I
a
know
car.
you guys are shocked based on his history.
Is that why I always have to pick you
So
up?
Uber is the greatest thing in the world to me. It's just absolutely life changing. You know,
I'm
I
mad I got sober before Uber.
think, yeah,
Like, it's bullshit, actually.
it is. It's horseshit. It's
I got
horseshit.
sober before weed was legal and Uber. I've never been so angry in my life.
Oh my God.
Well, I can see why that would get you.
I have a resentment.
But it's amazing because so these numbers and getting back to the economy, because they will, I have a lot of friends on and it's very difficult for me because I truly navigate the center. I was sort of a Republican for a long time, and I was a center Republican, and then when Trump came along, I became like a left center person. Right, and now I'm just sort of back center, and it's a very weird place to.
But
to
you
sort
have
of
like
live.
a deep-seated thing about Trump because you know him and your sister and shit, right?
Oh, boy.
We should go into this for a little
You're
bit.
welcome. I got you. Why you're mad at me? Now? Louis has a
Trump-
great story.
I do. It's not that great of a story.
But he's obsessed. He's like Quint from Jaws. He never gives it up. Every once in a while, he'll just start. He'll be talking about what a left centrist he is, and all of a sudden,
Yes.
he'll be
He's
sitting
just
there
showing
going,
the scars on his leg right now.
400 men went into the water. Anyway, so yeah, Trump about a long time ago in 1992, I believe, I was a kid, and we went to Aspen, and my sister's gorgeous, and it was between not Melania, who's the woman
the
he
one
was
that
with.
he has Tiffany with?
Yeah, the one he has Tiffany.
Marla
with.
Maples?
Marla Maples. It was in between his 2 stints with Marla. So he wanted, and this is where I saw somebody that was just a master of the media, because he wanted to get photographed with my sister, who
Sorry.
was stunning, right? Don't let this fool you. She was very attractive. Stunning woman, and he wanted to get photographed with her because he was manipulating through tabloids. Like he was manipulating, apparently, Marla, right? Because right at the end of this trip, he went back to Marla, and so we hung out with him for a couple weeks with him and Don Jr. and the other one.
Wow.
And Yvonne,
Yeah.
and
I think his
Yvonne-
name was Pam.
the one that didn't, yeah,
His
the
name
one
was
that
Pam.
doesn't count, that guy, Pam.
the spare. And Ivanka was there, and they were delightful people. They're very. It was very nice guy, very generous. But I watched even then, like his like what he was doing with this situation with his personal life to influence it with getting photographed with my sister. And Dustin can fact check that. He can actually bring the pictures up of Kellyanne Sabatasso and
Who is now Kellyanne
Yeah, I
Conway.
was just gonna ask.
Louis and I were in an Uber ride last night for 37 minutes.
Jesus.
going
Give
to
or
the-
take.
Going to
Give
the
or take.
Palisade Women's Club, and there was a period of silence, maybe 30 seconds or more, and then I hear over there by the window, I hear Louis go, sprayed on tan, orange hair.
Is he still doing Quinn? Is that
Yeah, it's Quinn from John.
amazing. That is
I'm like,
amazing.
come on, Louis, take it easy, bro.
No, this is
Sprayed on tan. I don't know the name of one of his sons, but he's probably got a tan too.
Opa.
And then we both started singing "Farewell and Adieu."
To you
to you
Spanish
fair
lady.
Spanish ladies.
Not that we were bidding anybody farewell.
No.
this is true. Yeah, there's definitely pictures of Louis' sister on the internet
Oh.
Oh.
That's
That
not
was-
with
nice.
Trump.
What did he
with
say?
Trump.
Pictures of my
Fact
sister on the
checking.
internet
He
insinuating.
said
Speaking
it.
of
Yeah.
pictures,
She's quoted in an article.
speaking
in
of
The Guardian.
pictures on the internet, do we want to talk about your gig tomorrow night?
Ooh,
Ooh,
buddy.
that's nice.
We were gonna do that at the end. when
All
we
right,
did
all right,
close.
sorry,
I don't
we're
want to.
close.
I don't want.
That's gonna be the best part of the show.
Can I ask you a
Put
question?
pin in
Yes,
it.
please.
Why, when you said you went, were you a never Trumper? Were you
No.
kind of like no?
If
Like,
I'm going to
fuck
be
him
honest,
forever?
when he got the nomination, I was like, why are these? Because I was probably at that maybe mildly at that point.
So then you said you went center left, but then came back to the middle. What caused that shift?
The Mueller, a lot of the horse shit with the Mueller report, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, like the extreme, the top priority being all the sexual identity stuff. When there's such things that in this country that we need to talk about. So, and the far progressive is very, I'm not that way, and I'm not far right. So it's like what's that game where you're just kind of like back and forth, like a little center,
Life.
a little center right, a little
It's
center
the
left.
game of life.
It's like this, and then I just kind of settle, and now I'm just very settled. Since we started the show, I've really become very staunchly in the center.
The
And
improv.
That's why I
did it.
sit in the center.
It's a transformative experience.
It is, and but that's a really good question because a lot of it too was the same people I used to look at as credible, I guess, in the media, were now saying these things about this guy that I knew were not factual in his favor.
Well, you're a big Lindsey Graham fan.
Who isn't?
No, I love it when you go off on Lindsey Graham.
Listen, I do not. Lindsay, if you're listening, I'm not. I have nothing
Lindsay's
against you.
listening to this.
I have nothing
Clearly.
against you. I think you're a very great guy. I have to ask myself, what does Trump have on you?
You could say that about the entire Senate. Like wears the backbone in people, and that's not even honestly like simple legislation that is just being babied. Like, I mean, I feel like we're in like the crib because people are not like doing their jobs or abdicating their roles.
What is Mitch McConnell's deal? You know, a Supreme Court justice dies. He's like, no, there's no vacancy. There's no vacancy. And the guy just dies like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll tell you what I'll tell Chuck Schumer. Go fly a kite.
Go fly.
Do you like that? Made
Can you give
that
me
made
as
our
much?
guest that made our guest laugh.
Can you give me as much Mitch McConnell as you
Yeah,
possibly
and
can?
forever.
Well, Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer from one of the New York type deal. You know how New Yorkers are. They kind of dip. Just creep up behind you like a billy goat.
What would Chuck Schumer say back to him, you think?
Go fly a kite. Run up the street and yell go. And then there's Marvelous Nancy. I think he has a crush.
Nervous Nancy. No, but you talked about Chuck Schumer is very specific too because he comes from like the blue blood New York, and the conversations between him and Mitch McConnell must be epic. But
Mitch McConnell has a droop. He's Droopy Dog. And Lindsey Graham has a bloat. A flop sweat bloat. I made my guest laugh twice.
I love impressions.
That is the most amazing
I'm so bad at them.
icon of political
That is
comedy, ladies and gentlemen.
Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer for. Can we say that's the first time?
What?
No, we did that last
We
week.
did that
was
briefly,
last
but
week.
yeah, but that was
I
the
was
first
gonna
time that
say-
occurred to me. I was like,
Yeah.
because they were in that video where they were ignored by the pallbearers.
Yes,
that was
that's
the
what we talked
best
about
video
last week.
ever.
Isn't his nickname Cocaine Mitch now?
Yeah,
Why?
How do you get such a
McConnell?
badass
that was
nickname?
from his wife, right? There was something about his wife because she owns like the whole shipping industry in the entire universe. And,
I
like,
never knew where he got the
there's something
nickname
about
from.
that.
Well, what happened to Moscow, Mitch?
Yeah, Moscow.
That
Oh,
was,
now
it
it's
was
Moscow
replaced
Mitch.
with cocaine.
But now
Mitch.
it's Cocaine Mitch.
Can we, Dustin? Can we look at that?
We've got to
I'm
keep
gonna
up.
go. I'm gonna go
right
into
now.
the stands.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
stands
I
here.
like that. Yeah.
Because
I like
this
it.
gentleman has been piping up often.
For people at
Tonight.
home, there's 20,000 people in this room.
Yes. Yes. What's your name, sir?
Mark.
Mark. Hi, Mark. You've had a lot to say tonight, and I'm really glad you're in the front row
I like
because
Mark.
that's where we like
I
to
like
put
Mark
our
too.
Yeah.
vociferous people. What do you do? What's your deal? What's your story?
About what?
Pretty broad.
I mean, you're obviously political. You're politically inclined. You knew about the Federalist, right? So would it?
That makes you a
my wife and I
unicorn.
are both attorneys, so if you're an attorney, you know what the Federalist is.
Right.
Because it's a society of lawyers
Right.
in law schools all across the country, and they are very conservative, and they're just about states' rights. And I shouldn't even say they're about states' rights. They're about super conservative rich people rights.
Wow.
They're
So-
responsible for the 150 plus that have been appointed.
Basically, they have written a list, and they've given it to Mitch, and you can pick from this list.
Unqualified or not.
They're the ones who went psycho about Kavanaugh getting on. You know, they were like freaking out.
Oh, they didn't want Kavanaugh.
No, they
No, they
wanted.
did.
They were the whole push behind Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was like their little god, and then he was all best friends with them, and they rammed him in there.
Very interesting. There's our. We talk about these judges. Daryl brings it up often about the fact that this guy's quietly appointing all
And
these
they're
judges.
unqualified to be on the bench.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
I feel
We
like
have
he
one
should
more thing, please.
come up on
So
stage.
right at the start, you mentioned pro wrestling and television. There's a. Do you follow Vox.com?
Yeah.
Okay, there was an interview on there
I
yesterday.
don't know what's about to happen here. So
No. There was an interview there yesterday about like what the hell is happening and how did Trump become Trump? And there was a professor of sociology who basically analyzed that Trump is the product of American television.
Right.
And he specifically said he's the product of pro wrestling.
Right.
He was in pro wrestling, and the reason that he can, and you guys are switching topics all the time, about how everyone switches topics. He said cable TV news basically
no, the whole cable TV news is like, there's a fire,
Right.
and there's a rape,
Right.
and there's a car crash.
Breaking
and there's-
news.
Right.
And no, they just change the topic every 5 seconds,
Right.
so Trump can change the topic every 5 seconds, and everyone forgets what he says, and he can just goes on and on and on. He starts here, ends here, and goes back to here, and it all ties into what you guys were talking about. And I would say you should read this a little bit because it'll help you.
It'll help us.
I want to
We
say
were-
that
We can
I've
use all the
never-
help
we
we
need
can
a lot
get.
of help.
I've never read that Vox.
Yeah.
I
I
have
love
not read that Vox thing,
Thank you.
and yet I had the same thing about the pro wrestling, which is pretty great. I mean, it's apparently
Why? Tell me why that made pro wrestling made him.
because I think he kind of like invented this character. It's like the hair. It's a lot like Hulk Hogan,
yeah.
right? Like the hair is long in the back, and the this and the makeup.
What
and
did he?
And he
Spray
speaks
on
in
tan.
statements like, he speaks in everything's a statement like, perfect phone call, el perfecto, as he said this week, and no collusion, no obstruction. It's all very just soundbitey. It's like the guys after the pro wrestling matches when they get up and they use like 6 words and really get the crowd right.
What was Vince McMahon's wife? He appointed her to something. What was that? 'Cause she's
Secretary of Education.
Like, likely.
That's been-
She's like in the administration. Like, he's very close with the McMahons, and like I think he tried to buy something in WWE or whatever.
Don't you
but,
think
yeah.
we're gonna be so bored after this administration?
He's not
if we
going
have a
anywhere.
normal-
I don't think he's
So,
going anywhere. So I think-
Daryl
Never-
talks about this a lot.
Kanye
About
is the only way we can go after this.
Wait.
well, either
Oh.
he's not
It's true.
leaving, or if he.
Uh-oh.
Fact,
Fact check.
Linda McMahon was officially named chairman of America First Action, a pro-Trump super PAC 2019.
Oh, so it's
Nice.
super PAC. Yeah.
That's
money
the
related.
super PAC that's
Trump.
going to
Yeah.
sue this show.
I am a big fan. I didn't
And
say
Cory
anything
Booker.
bad about pro wrestling. I'm just saying that that's where perhaps, and apparently this Vox article agrees with me. So talk to them.
What was the point you were getting ready to make?
Well, I was getting ready to make the point of Trump. Either there is a theory that he will not leave office, and for many reasons, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on. And then even if he does, say he gets voted out, whatever, he's not the kind of guy who's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the Hamptons now. Like he's got to be Trump forever.
He's not going to disappear.
He's never gonna disappear. Like you're not getting rid of this guy.
I kind of wonder what it would have looked like had he lost and was just there. There were no.
He was starting
No
a TV
kind of-
like
There'd be
empire.
the Trump channel.
yeah.
It
yeah,
would be.
He's trying to do that.
There might actually be a civil war though right now going on if he had lost because he'd be totally unchecked.
Yeah.
There'd be no reason for him to have any kind of.
Right.
He doesn't want to win. He lost. He's just like.
Well, he did say in one of
riling
his
his
tweets if
base
he's
up.
removed from office, there'll be a civil war.
Yep.
And
He's setting the stage.
yeah, and Louis thought that meant it was a call to arms.
I think to a way it
I
kind
mean,
is.
first of all,
It's call to
again,
arms.
I did not say that was a call to arms. I said obviously he meant a civil discourse of sorts
Oh.
between opposing factions of the country.
Lively debate.
Well, just a lively debate, as it were. And that's what I meant by that.
I
yeah.
knew that.
It is wild to go online during these kind of polarizing moments, and it's like a Rorschach test. You can
Yeah.
it's almost like living in 2 countries
Now you're speaking my
simultaneously.
language.
Well, you're 3 lanes, right? If I got this right, it's recovery, mental health, and free speech, and free speech is your true north, right?
Yes, and
Like-
like section relationships and all that stuff.
If the
But free speech is a hill I will die on.
And
Yeah.
what about the mental health thing?
well, the
I'm mentally ill.
I'm mentally injured.
Welcome to the club.
I'm actually
no, but
doing-
those are the 3 most important things, right? Those are your
Yeah, I would say those are. I like those lanes too because I feel like they're not. I'm not a policy wonk. I know this shocks all of you, based on my performance here, and I think that those are issues that affect everybody in America. Everybody has relationship and sex issues. Everybody has addiction, mental health, and wellness. There's like comedy. I hope unites people and in free speech is something that we all should be fighting for.
I just got an interview on CBS this morning about mental health. It's weird because I'm kind of a dumbass, you know. I graduated college with a 2.1, but I wrote this book, so I'm being interviewed about mental health, and all I can do is report shit that expensive doctors have told me.
What's the
it's
name
not-
of the book?
It's called God, If You're Not Up There, I'm Fucked, Louis.
I
Does
like
it end
that.
with Louis? 'Cause that would be
Huh?
amazing.
I wrote it when I was in a Caribbean jail. No, I came up with the title.
Yeah.
I just said, God, if you're not up there, I'm in so much trouble. And then HarperCollins said, that means fucked. So, God, if you're not up there, I'm fucked.
And the swear words on books are big right now.
Well,
It's like a big
I
thing.
couldn't sell it in bookstores and shit. I had to sell it online.
Mm.
I did a Books a
gonna get a
Million.
rebirth.
I did a Books a Million in Mobile, Alabama to sign my bestseller. I didn't sign a single fucking book. I signed 52 copies of 50 Shades of Grey. So I'm like, my tale of survival
Right
is
when
not
you
gonna
know.
sell here in Mobile, but the butt pluggery
What is the name of the documentary?
Cracked Up.
Cracked Up. There's a
Yeah.
documentary out that
That's what we're gonna be talking about on CBS.
is great. That, yeah,
Ah.
it's a documentary that's. I mean, it's critically acclaimed. It's getting a lot of buzz around the award season, and then it's a documentary about.
It's about that mental illness is not an airborne virus, that it comes from somewhere specific, and that it's not the patient's fault.
That should be a T-shirt. Mental illness is not airborne.
Well, yeah.
I like that.
I mean, but that's from a doctor.
Well,
You
it
know,
just
so
came
like-
from you. As
Like
far
I
as I'm
went all
concerned.
of these years where people going, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" And then this guy walks in and goes, "Oh, something happened to you. That's why you're like this. So we're gonna figure out what that was, and then we're gonna treat it." And I'm like, "Wow."
All kidding aside, I did an interview with
Wait,
Daryl.
that wasn't kidding.
No, you were kidding. I'm me kidding. All kidding aside,
Daryl's
Daryl-
just joking about this shit.
No. That's not what I
That
meant.
documentary.
I
It's a
meant.
mockumentary.
I meant back to myself and making light of things. Daryl and I did an interview with Daryl. I think about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and we really bonded instantly. We were trying. Daryl and I kind of bonded. And as soon as I met Daryl, we had this connection, and we were kind of figuring out how that came from. And this interview, it became really clear that we bonded because of our trauma. We were trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But that's become a power. I mean, I think you guys have both obviously gotten through this, and
I mean,
we'll always deal with it. But I feel like it becomes a superpower to some extent as well.
how's it a superpower?
Yeah,
Because
let
I
me
think
know.
it shapes you, and it makes you have to deal with the fact that this thing is there. Like,
Oh, it put us on the potter's wheel.
I
Listen,
thought we
I
were
mean, I-
talking about the election for a minute, and then I was like, "Are
I
we
think
talking
we
about the
kinda
election
were.
with the trauma bonding over?"
Because we want to give out our Puckered Pickle Award.
Puckered Pickle Award. I have a friend named Dan. I won't say his last name just in case he doesn't want us to, but I'm sure, whatever. Dan came up with a thing.
The most unsavory experience act of the week gets the Puckered Pickle Award.
Ooh.
It's like it's the puckered pickle. He's English. He's
Oh.
British.
What does that mean?
Well, the Puckered Pickle Award, the pucker, the pick. Come on, that thing. You know what it means. Everybody in the audience
Can you
can know what
visualize
puckered
this?
pickle means.
No.
So, who gets the Puckered Pickle Award this week? Daryl. Not Daryl doesn't get it. Daryl's
What
gonna
the
let
hell
us
did Daryl
know.
do?
Yeah, what the fuck did I do?
Daryl's gonna let us know who gets the Puckered Pickle
No.
Award this week.
No, I wanted Aaron.
Oh, Aaron's gonna do
The
it.
most unsavory act. and-
The most something. Yeah.
Aaron, wait, who gets the award?
I
I
don't
don't
know if it's
know.
from what I said or from just being a normie.
No.
or-
Who gets it? You have to say who
Oh,
gets
I'm
the
one who
award.
gets to
Yeah,
give
you
it
pick
out?
Pucker
Giving the
Pickle.
award. Anybody like Mitch McConnell? Anybody? I'm not saying Mitch.
We're just
Oh, you
making
said
this
Mitch.
up right
Oh,
now.
this
I
Yeah.
thought you guys
feels
had
so much
chosen.
better now.
Yeah, no, we're not
Ah,
giving
for
you the
fuck.
award.
I was
Like,
like,
no,
what
no,
did
no,
I
no,
do,
no, no, no.
man?
Puckered Pickle Award, like perhaps Don Jr. Because it's so funny that that my friend Bridget here sent a tweet out and it was retweeted by
You shouldn't tell these poor folks this stuff.
by Donald Trump
Yes,
Jr.
you
But
should.
he retweeted a tweet where she called him Junior. But because she was kind of it was the most brilliant thing. She calls him Junior. So Junior went on The View today, and because she kind of took the side that The View was a little bit kind of crazy in the interview, he retweeted it. So he retweeted a tweet where she called him Junior, which I felt was just brilliant and amazing.
Which, by the way, is a horrible thing to happen on Twitter because there's a Trump bot that monitors every single one of the Trump kids and Trump's tweets. It's like Trump tweet spots. And so not only will he retweet you, but then there's this bot that all the media follows. It's like Donald Trump Jr. retweeted Bridget Phetasy. And now you have like the media reporting on me being retweeted by this guy.
Did that make your picker puck? Did that make your pickle pucker?
He's that whole entire View was a shit show. Did you guys see this? Did anyone see The View this week? So Donald Trump Jr. went on to talk about his book, but it ended up in just like this debaucherous. It was bananas. It reminded me of Jerry Springer. It was like that. I mean,
not debaucherous in the
Whoopi
sense
said
that
something
clothes
as
came
well.
off.
What did she say?
Donald Trump Jr. said something about Joy was criticizing him, and then he said, "Joy, you wore blackface." And then at one point, Junior had a good line, and then the audience applauded, and then Joy was like, "This isn't a MAGA rally," and started yelling at the audience.
But Whoopi
I mean,
said,
wild.
"We can't hear you if you don't shut the fuck up," or something. She like cursed and like said something.
Oh, it was It was absolutely insane.
On that note, let's. Do we have anything we'd like to? We have about 1 minute left. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about or plug real quick?
No, go watch. Well, yeah, I'll plug my weekly dumpster fire on YouTube. We make fun of the not as serious aspects of the culture war, and I have Walk-Ins Welcome, a podcast where I interview all types of people. Sir, I think I would like to have you on.
Yes. Yes.
Aaron?
And my plug is Common Ally. We are a nonpartisan issue-based app geared primarily to get young people out to vote and voice their opinions regardless of what that opinion is. So commonally.com, download the app.
Dustin?
I'm performing tomorrow night at Cheetah's Strip Club in Silver Lake.
All
No,
right.
he's serious.
I'm
Go ahead.
going.
I love that venue.
Yeah, there's a show called Make It Rain Comedy where you do stand up for 7 minutes and then you strip. So the career's on fire.
Things are rough right now in the comedy world.
Yeah.
True story.
Wow.
8 p.m. I'll be there.
Mr. Darrell, do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
No. I can't think of anything. I think I said everything.
Well, this is all I got going. This is my full-time
Yeah.
job. So
I'm doing
if you're-
I'm
my
doing-
plug is keep watching the summit.
I'm doing CBS in 2 weeks.
CBS in 2 weeks, and we'll probably be back on that other
We'll be
On-
here
on
next
what?
week.
Be back on.
SNL, right? You'll be
Maybe
back
we
on
can
SNL
get you
if
in
they
there.
call.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can only hope. The next time he does go on SNL, we're going to actually have a monitor for our call with Darrell during the show, like we did last week. We're going to have a monitor that we can do FaceTime, so we could actually have a conversation with you
Okay.
from the stage.
I know we won't have that on.
Why do you? Why would
Can't
you
we all
doubt
just
me?
go with you?
Why would you doubt me, Darrell? I'm going to make
Can
that
we
happen.
have it
Well, you
there?
couldn't lace up a phone
Thank
call.
you, everybody, for
Thank you,
coming.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.